Good morning, parents and Year 10 students. Thank you for taking the time to look at this presentation and listen to some of those key points that were presented at last night's subject selection evening. There is a lot of information that is contained within this presentation, so please make sure that if you don't understand anything, give us a call or email us regarding your young person's journey into Year 11 and 12. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet and educate and support our students. We pay respects to elders past, present and emerging, for they hold the culture, the memories and the dreams of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. In terms of the order of topics within this presentation, there will be obviously an introduction to the senior schooling team, looking at what is senior schooling at Beaudesert State High School, considering the senior phase of learning, including post-compulsory schooling, as well as the Queensland Certificate of Education requirements, vocational education and training and the QCE, looking a little bit at school-based traineeships and apprenticeships, senior school expectations and the Beaudesert State High School assessment policy. So in terms of who our senior schooling team are, we have Damien Burke, our principal, along the top line there, obviously myself, Deputy Principal of Senior Schooling, Todd Winton, the Deputy Principal of Inclusion, Head of Department Senior Schooling, Kerry Gray, down the bottom, Senior Guidance Officer, Kayleen Mulcahy. Belle Brown is our Lincoln Launch and Industry Liaison Officer. Scott Weston is our Youth Support Coordinator, and Year 10 Deputy Principal is Robert Watson. So in terms of our senior school vision, we ensure that everything in terms of events, set planning, subject selections, all lead back to our vision. And our vision in the senior schooling space is every student at Beaudesert State High School, regardless of their circumstances, are engaged and inspired in a well-planned, meaningful senior schooling pathway, allowing them to lead a life of choice, not chance. And this is really important. You'll see a number of these themes come through in today's presentation. In terms of success in senior school, it's really important to note that success starts with a well-considered and personalised senior education and training plan. We refer to this plan as the SET-P process, so you will hear me refer to SET-P within this presentation. What is really important to note is that a well-developed SET plan really does underpin a successful transition into Year 11 and 12, making sure that students have that opportunity to obtain QCE, so a Queensland Certificate of Education, and if they choose or are eligible with the meeting prerequisites, move into an ATAR pathway and potentially have the opportunity to move into university later on. The transition into Year 11 and 12 really does mark a milestone in a young person's education journey. This transition from compulsory schooling to compulsory participation phase is probably one of the key points in differing from Year 7 to 10 in terms of secondary education. Compulsory schooling finishes when a student turns 16 or when they finish Year 10. And I think this is really important to note because while they are 16, they are still in a compulsory participation phase of education. Now, what this means is that a young person must participate in one of the following, whether that be approved educational training, including registration for home education, paid employment, or a combination of approved education training and paid employment. It's really important when considering a young person's pathway to determine a number of key points. And the very first point there is around ensuring that there is an understanding that not every student's pathway will be exactly the same. Students should have a unique, personalised pathway tailored to their goals, whether that be their goals in Year 11 and 12 or their goals post-schooling. One pathway is not right or wrong, but is suited to individual students. There are multiple and valid ways to get to your career goal. So it's really important to understand and speak with some of our key individuals, whether that be Belle Brown, Scott Weston, Kerry Gray, Kayleen Mulcahy, regarding how or what those different pathways might be to get to that destination career goal. Post-schooling destinations are specific to the career goals of each student, whether that be university, whether that be TAFE or employment. Junior secondary curriculum here at Beaudesert, so year 7, 8, 9 and 10, really do provide a solid foundation and transition into year 11 and 12 curriculum. The year 11 and 12 curriculum is determined by the QCAA, so the Queensland Curriculum and Assessment Authority, and these subjects, or this curriculum, is divided into two categories. The first is general subjects. These subjects would be chosen if students are moving into an ATAR or university pathway. And the second category is applied subjects. These particular subjects would be encouraged regarding the industry pathway. What is important to note is that by exiting with either of these pathways, there is opportunities for further study, whether that be at TAFE or university, and also work opportunities. Both of these pathways, the university pathway and the industry pathway, allow students to accumulate credits that will go towards their Queensland Certificate of Education. However, if students do have a more personalised goal, and your young person and yourself would be aware of that, they would be moving towards a Queensland Certificate of Individual Achievement. So when determining which pathway might be best for your Year 10 student, or if you are a Year 10 student for yourself, it is important to determine some key characteristics that is needed for each pathway. So in terms of an ATAR pathway or a university pathway, these are students who know that they want to go to university after Year 12. These are also students who enjoy writing or studying and reading. Students who are willing to put in at least 10 to 15 hours of study per week, whether that be readings, homework, or completing assignments. Students who generally achieve A's or B's in their subjects. And students are expected to meet a minimum prerequisite grade, which will be discussed a little bit later. In terms of the industry pathway, if you think this might be you, then we essentially have determined that this pathway is for students who want to go to TAFE after school. It is also a pathway to university through TAFE, so that's important to note as well. Students who want to move into the workforce after school, students who want more practical learning experiences, students who might still want to go to university but have very busy sporting, performing commitments and are therefore unable to commit to the study requirements of an ATAR pathway, and students who want to move into a trade. So those students would be encouraged to take up an industry pathway. So as outlined before, there are two different types of subjects in the Year 11 and 12 curriculum. The first are general subjects and the second are applied subjects. In terms of subject combination recommendations, for the ATAR pathway, we recommend taking 6 general subjects or 5 general subjects plus 1 applied subject or certificate course. If you're looking to move into the industry pathway, then that is a maximum of 3 general subjects plus a combination of applied subjects and certificate courses. So in terms of an ATAR, it is the primary mechanism used nationally for tertiary administrations. While it is the primary mechanism, it's also important to note that an ATAR is not the only mechanism. So for more information, definitely speak to our senior schooling team regarding that. In terms of an ATAR, it does indicate a student's position that is relative to other students. So by that, we mean that it is calculated based on where they sit in relation to every other student in Year 12 who takes that subject. In terms of a numerical value, it's graded on a 2,000 point scale between 0.00 and 99.95. What is important to note is that it will take your 5 best general subjects. So if you are taking 6 general subjects, it automatically will take the subjects where you are performing the best, and it'll take those top 5. Or it will take 4 general subjects plus an applied subject or completed Cert 3 or higher level VET for an ATAR. However, it is important to note that with the 4 general subjects, that the scaling of the ATAR generally is lower. What is important to note also is that students must successfully complete English. So while English might not be used, it might not be part of their top 5, but they still do English, it is still important and actually a requirement that students complete English with a pass, so a satisfactory, a C or above. There are prerequisite grades in relation to the ATAR pathway. So as I said before, the ATAR pathway does require students to complete general subjects. So prerequisite grades are in place in order to support students to be successful through their senior studies. General subjects and an ATAR pathway is an academically rigorous, challenging, but rewarding choice. Those wishing to pursue an ATAR pathway must meet the following prerequisites. They must have a minimum C in English and C or above in mathematics and science subjects. Where this hasn't been met, though, by the set plan interview, so at the end of this term, requests will be reviewed and recommendations made. So what we will have in place or have the opportunity to put in place is a subject passport, which can be enacted. So if your young person has not passed English for this term or last term, then they will go into a subject passport, and they will prove over the course of the next semester that they are able to really engage with that more rigorous content in order to be able to change their subjects next year to an ATAR pathway. Students and parents will sign an academic contract detailing alignment to school expectations. All students in Year 11 are working towards either a Queensland Certificate of Education or a Queensland Certificate of Individual Achievement. The Queensland Certificate of Education was previously known as the Year 12 certificate that students received at the end of Year 12. However, the Queensland Certificate of Education rebranding now means that this qualification is internationally recognised. It's based on achievement, and that achievement is calculated across Year 11, Unit 1 and Unit 2, and Year 12, Unit 3 and Unit 4. What is important to note is that Unit 1 and 2 in Year 11 do stand in isolation. However, the credits of Unit 3 and 4 are joined together. So in order for students to receive the 2 credits in Year 12 for Unit 3 and 4 of their subject, they must actually pass across the year in both those units. As outlined previously, there are some strict requirements around achieving a certificate of education. So there are 4 rules which need to be met. These are that the student must obtain 20 QCE, so Certificate of Education credits, across Year 11 and Year 12. Now, each subject has 4 units, and with a pass for the unit, the student will receive 1 credit. So, for instance, if the student is doing English, there are 4 units of English. If they pass all 4 units, then at the end, they will receive 4 credits for that subject. Also, another rule is around literacy and numeracy. So in order to get your Certificate of Education, students must have a pass in 1 unit of maths and 1 unit of English. These are compulsory requirements. A student cannot exit Year 12 without passing maths or English. Students can have 50 credits, but if they haven't passed maths or English, then they will not be able to get their Certificate of Education. So that's 3 rules. And then the 4th rule is around what we call completed core. Now this completed core is 12 points within that 20. Those 12 credits means that a student needs to start the subject in Year 11 and finish that subject in Year 12. Across those 2 years, they will accumulate those credits. So 4 credits per subject, so 3 of them. 3 of those subjects will obviously allocate 12 of those credits out of that 20. So that is the 4 rules in achieving a QCE. In terms of those credits, as I outlined before, Unit 1 and 2, which is completed in Year 11, contribute 1 credit per unit per subject. So if a student is completing 6 subjects in Unit 1, if they pass all of those subjects, they will receive 6 credits. That'll then repeat in Unit 2, so if they pass all 6 subjects, then they will receive another 6 credits. In Unit 3 and 4, it contributes 2 credits. However, there are no single units permissible. What that means, as I outlined before, is students need to pass the assessment across both of those units in order to be able to receive those 2 credits. If students fail, then students will not receive the 2 credits and they will be allocated 0. At least 12 credits must come from fully completed courses, as I said before. So the student must complete units 1 to 4 for a particular subject, English, maths, and ag science, for instance. The QCAA outlined those 2 categories of subjects, the first being general subjects and the second being applied subjects. So what is the difference? Both general and applied subjects allow students to accumulate QCE or Queensland Certificate of Education credits. In terms of the academic rigour, general subjects do have a higher rigour than the applied subjects. Applied subjects are usually more hands-on. There are a number of prerequisites when it comes to subjects, and these apply in the general space. So in order to choose general subjects in Year 11, students must have passed English and maths and science for some of those subjects as well in Year 10. The general subjects also require external exams to occur at the end of Year 12. These external exams will weight anything from 25% of the mark up to 50% of the mark for the science and maths subjects. In terms of the applied subjects, all assessment is conducted internally. It is facilitated and marked internally as well, with the exception of the common internal assessment for maths and English, which is obviously moderated externally as well. We do have a number of VET qualifications, so vocational education training qualifications, that students can start in Year 11. In terms of school-based traineeship or apprenticeship information, it is important to go and speak with Belle Brown, who is currently facilitating and organising that aspect of senior school. In terms of TAFE at Schools program, it would also be vital to go and see Belle Brown in B-Block for more information about how TAFE at Schools or TAFE could be started within the Year 11 and 12 space. In terms of VET qualifications, there are 3 qualifications, Cert 2 Animal Studies, Cert 3 Fitness, and Cert 2 in Hospitality that we offer here as part of our timetable allocations. Please note that there are fees for these subjects, including actually hospitality there, that should also have an asterisk. Now we get to the part of this presentation that talks a little bit about set plan interviews. Set plan interviews have been scheduled for week 10, so Tuesday and Wednesday of week 10. It is important that students and parents/guardians present to that half-an-hour interview in order to discuss the best possible pathway for their young person in Year 11 and 12. Advice to all students. In terms of picking your subjects, it's important to be thoughtful and realistic when picking your subjects. Think about your grades currently in Year 10 and what is going to best suit you moving into Year 11 and 12 so that you can be successful. It's important that you pick the subjects that are based on your intended pathway and not what your friends are doing. We find students who tend to choose what their friends are doing are going to be less successful in those subjects in the senior space. Being aware that there are alternative pathways into university. So as I said previously, looking at vocational education certificates, so our certificate courses, looking at diplomas, bridging courses, and other pathway programs. Again, for information about alternative pathways, it would be important to see Kayleen Mulcahy, our Senior Guidance Officer, or Belle Brown, our Industry Liaison Officer and Lincoln Launch Coordinator. In terms of ATAR scaling, the higher the result you get for every subject, the higher ATAR you will receive. So it's important to pick subjects, one, that you enjoy, that you know that you can do quite well in, but also ones that you might find a little bit challenging, but do have a basic foundation of that subject knowledge. Finding out more information about your pathways as well can occur through looking at the QTAC guide, university websites, going to open days both for TAFE and universities, speaking with our GOs, our HODs, and also our teachers. Before arriving to your interview, it would be important to consider these questions and what those answers will be for you in determining what is the best course within Year 11 and 12. So what do you want to do after you leave Year 12? What training courses do you need in order to be successful in moving into that pathway after school? What are the prerequisites for the particular subjects that you want to take? And also, what are those prerequisites when it comes to university subjects? What subjects are you currently good at, because they're the ones that we know students do best at? And which subjects do you like? Expectations of senior school students in the compulsory participation phase of education do differ from those expectations of Year 7 to 10. Some of those expectations revolve around attendance, so maintaining a minimum of 92% attendance, making sure that students are at school on time every day. Any absences need to be explained through parental or guardian contact to the school. And any certification, so medical documentation, medical certificates, specialist reports, need to be provided to the school for any missed assessment or exams. This documentation is then submitted into the QCAA portal in order for an extension to be granted. Academic progress expectations are quite high for students in Year 11 and 12. The reasons for this is that students are monitored to ensure that they are on track with accruing enough credits for their Certificate of Education or Certificate of Individual Achievement. Students who are achieving less than a C grade in any subject will be supported and a plan implemented to achieve future success. However, it is important that students are maintaining a satisfactory or above level of effort and behaviour within these subjects in order to support the implementation of a successful plan. In this case, it may result in subject changes or the students choosing a different pathway. So how can families help? It's important that within the senior school, partnerships between home and school are maintained and enhanced. And this can occur in a number of different ways. The first is if you think your young person requires any assistance regarding their mental or physical health, please let us know. Encourage your young person to commit to a study pattern or routine at home, ensuring that they prioritise attendance and make sure that they're here as much as they possibly can be. Engage with teachers regularly and ensure that there are patterns of communication that are established within the senior school. Knowing and checking that your young person understands when their assessment is due, whether that be a draft or whether that be a final copy of the assessment. Supporting students to understand the contracts associated with senior school, whether that be a senior schooling contract or whether that be a contract relating to traineeships or apprenticeships. And speaking with your young person regarding the next steps to improve their academic goals and performance. We know that a number of our students do have part-time jobs, and we really do encourage a maximum of 12 hours a week to ensure that time can be allocated towards study and obviously continuing their education. There are a number of different sources of information that can help to support the transition from Year 10 into Year 11 and 12. Some of these sites we've provided on this screen for you, so please feel free to access these links to provide that information. If you do have questions about the information through these links, please contact the school and our Senior Schooling Hub. Senior schooling processes in relation to assessment are quite strict in Year 11 and 12. It's important that all assessment be completed and submitted on or before the due date. This includes completing a full draft to ensure that the best possible feedback can be given by the teacher in order to change or modify and meet the criteria of the assessment. All examinations must be attended on the scheduled date and attending all scheduled lessons. As outlined before, if a student is absent on these days, it is important that medical documentation is provided so that an ARA can be submitted to QCAA. Also outlined previously is engaging in teaching and learning in all curriculum classes to a satisfactory level of effort or above, and making sure that your attendance is 92% or above as well. An ARA, an access adjustment and reasonable arrangement, can be organised if that medical documentation is submitted to the school and processed through senior schooling and QCAA. If a student fails to obtain an ARA and fails to submit their assessment, they will be graded an N, which is a non-submission of assessment. That automatically removes the opportunity for students to gain credits within that unit for that course. Some of the conditions around ARAs being approved does require them to meet a certain criteria for verifiable absences. ARAs that will not be approved are those that the absences have arisen from a student or parent carer's choice, such as family holidays. An ARA will also not be approved if it is related to technology failures in regards to assessment. If an ARA is not approved and the student fails to submit assessment, then there will be a non-submission of assessment awarded. The Bring Your Own Device program is a mandatory requirement for all Year 11 and 12 students from 2024 and beyond. So the next steps in understanding this program is for parents and carers to read and understand the BYOD requirements, check minimum specifications required for the device, complete and sign a BYOD agreement form and return it to IT along with the device so that it can be set up to the network. We do recommend that this process does occur in semester 2 of Year 10, so this year, to ensure that the device is ready to go on day 1 of Year 11. There will be further information provided in the future regarding devices, but information regarding devices can also be found on the next few slides and also on our website. This slide outlines the minimum specification for devices. Regarding setup of devices, this slide does identify some clear points regarding what is needed. Please note the school's number and if you have any issues to contact the IT department. So where to from here? In week 10, Monday the 17th of June through to Wednesday the 19th of June, students will not be required in Year 10 to attend normal classes. Instead, they'll be required to attend a 30-minute set plan interview with a parent or guardian. At this point in time, the subjects will be confirmed and they will consider the pathways of Year 10 students post Year 12. In Term 3, we will implement our subject passport, so if students are looking to change their subjects into a general ATAR pathway, then we will have that subject passport implemented, and then a review process will occur to determine whether that student can make changes from applied subjects to general subjects later on in the year. Thank you for viewing this presentation. If you do have any further questions, please contact the Head of Senior Schooling or obviously myself, Kirsty, the Deputy of Senior Schooling. We would also encourage you to complete the forms attached so that we understand who has viewed this information.